We provide after-school programming, career exposure, pre-apprenticeship programs for youth and young adults between the ages of 12 and 24.
And a perk in being part of our program is that everybody who enrolls is pretty much guaranteed a summer job.
We look at the development of girls and the stages that they go through adolescence. And so it's a nurturing environment, obviously it's a mentoring environment, and the leaders provide the kind of support to help ensure that these young ladies will become successful in their careers and in their lives.
The lessons I learned going through college this way, the lessons I learned building a career, if I could pass those lessons down so students wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel each time, then that's a lot of value that could be added. And so we started gathering first generation graduates to start to share what they learned, to pass it down to students today, and realize that, you know, there's so much power in that and inspiration in that, and it began to become like a tribe.
One of the great benefits for me about being a part of UAC is that it really is a family. And so therefore, in terms of, you know, operating my nonprofit, any questions that I might have, there is a family member, if you will, another program partner that I can reach out to that can be helpful.
Because of UAC, the Collective Success Network was able to get started right away and serve over 400 students in our first academic year.
Because of UAC, UACAP started in 1989 and is still here today. That's a big accomplishment.
Since our founding in 1969, UAC has helped friends, families, and neighbors across Philadelphia create stronger, more vibrant communities. And today we welcome you to join us in celebrating over half a century of service here at our 52nd anniversary celebration kickoff. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today as the Urban Affairs Coalition celebrates 52 years of service in the greater Philadelphia region. Hi, I'm Charmaine Matlock-Turner.
And I'm Jim Murgiotti. We've come a long way since our inception all those years ago. Today there are more than 80 partners and projects, both large and small, affiliated with UAC, and we're just getting started. Today we'll be recognizing all of this year's honorees and presenting a special fireside chat with Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr. While we'll be featuring our Doer Award honoree today, we'll be celebrating with the Coalition all year long, and we look forward to future events with our other honorees as we continue to celebrate these 52 years of impactful service. We hope you can join us for upcoming events with Dr. Alla Stanford and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium, Greg Heller, and PNC Bank. So be on the lookout for updates about those events, and please make sure that we're not lost in your spam or junk mail. As we take time to celebrate the many accomplishments of the Coalition and look forward to the future, we also want to reflect on our rich and important history.
In April 1968, a diverse coalition of Philadelphia's leaders gathered after the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to discuss how the city would quell community unrest and to invest in hope. 2 days later, these leaders made a commitment totaling more than $1 million that would be invested in needed community resources. And most importantly, these leaders empowered community groups and individuals to direct how those funds should be spent. This historic partnership between business, government, labor, and community leaders resulted in the founding of what we know today as the Urban Affairs Coalition. We talk a lot about the assassination of Dr. King when sharing the history of UAC, but it's important that we don't gloss over this foundational moment. The loss of Dr. King was an immensely traumatic and horrific event that destabilized the movement, but out of that tragedy and confusion came a commitment to positive change.
Today's honorees reflect that spirit of hope that inspired the founding of the coalition. And without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce UAC board member Cherry Lee Taylor, the Executive Director of Government Affairs at Merck, who will be presenting the Living Legacy Award, followed by UAC board member Tina Durazio, who will present the Community Leadership Award.
On behalf of all of my colleagues at Merck, congratulations to the Urban Affairs Coalition on celebrating 52 years of service. Merck is a global healthcare company whose mission is to save and improve lives, and we are committed to the health and overall well-being of patients across our society. So we could not be more proud to be a sponsor, supporter, and partner of the coalition and its mission. As a proud UAC board member, I am honored to serve with my fellow members as stewards of this historic organization at such a tremendous time in our history. As UAC celebrates 52 years of providing services to communities, we are also honoring the generations of individuals from all walks of life who make up our UAC family, past, present, and future. These individuals have come together year after year under one banner to drive change, bringing their expertise, commitment, dedication, and grit to make a difference in people's lives, still 52 years later. And as Charmaine always says, we're just getting started. Which brings me to our Living Legacy honorees. The Urban Affairs Coalition's Living Legacy Award is presented to visionary leaders who have demonstrated a lifetime commitment to fostering the coalition's goal of improving life chances for our youth and young adults, building wealth in urban communities, and strengthening the nonprofit sector. This year, I have the distinct privilege to introduce our Living Legacy honorees, Dr. Ayla Stanford and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium.
When the novel coronavirus began spreading through the city of Philadelphia in March of 2020, Dr. Ayla Stanford, a North Philadelphia native and a board-certified adult and pediatric surgeon, took action by filling a rented van with testing supplies, gathered a few volunteers, and began administering COVID-19 tests for anyone who needed them. This effort began what would eventually become the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium. As the first wave of the pandemic spread into April, communities across the country began to realize that the COVID-19 data told an ominous story. People living in majority Black communities were infected at 3 times the rate and dying at almost 6 times the rate of people living in majority white communities. This came as no surprise to Dr. Stanford and her volunteer group of doctors. Stanford knew the systemic factors that affect communities of color, ranging from increased pre-existing conditions to the history of inequitable treatment by the medical community. These factors and more would undoubtedly affect their access, not to mention their willingness to be tested for the virus, and would lead to more people in BIPOC communities to become sick and potentially die from COVID-19. What started as an independent testing effort focused on supporting African Americans in Philadelphia has blossomed into testing more than 75,000 residents in BIPOC communities since COVID began. In January 2021, the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium vaccinated an average of 1,000 people a day and ran a 24-hour vaxathon, inoculating more than 4,000 people. Most recently, the consortium opened the Dr. Ayla Stanford Center for Health Equity, a permanent community health center based in a former school in North Philly, which serves all ages 7 days a week. Dr. Stanford has received national recognition for her inspiring leadership and commitment to the Philadelphia community, including the George H.W. Bush Points of Light Award, CNN hero, and featured on the cover as #1 of 76 most influential Philadelphians, as voted by Philadelphia Magazine. Congratulations to an extraordinary hero and true living legend of our time, Dr. Ayla Stanford and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium.
On behalf of the staff and players at the Philadelphia Eagles, congratulations UAC on celebrating 52 years of service. We are proud to be a sponsor, supporter, and partner. And as a UAC board member, I'm elated to call UAC family. The Eagles take our responsibility to the community seriously. We are dedicated to being innovative leaders on and off the field, with our work turning awareness into action through research, advocacy, and empathy for those on the autism spectrum. Our heart and tradition are in the city of Philadelphia. Our impact goes beyond as we celebrate our fans battling cancer and saluting those who have served in the armed forces. We inspire the next generation of youth football players and nonprofit leaders and ensure every child has the opportunity to see the blackboard clearly. And we are invested in creating a culture of inclusion and compassion through support for social justice organizations in Philadelphia and the 20+ years we've been building playgrounds. We believe there's no off-season to good citizenship. The Urban Affairs Coalition Community Leadership Award is presented each year to local community leaders who have exceptionally contributed to the quality of life in the greater Philadelphia region. This year, I have the pleasure to introduce our Community Service Award honoree, Greg Heller.
I've had the privilege to spend 5.5 years serving my city in the public sector, focused on building safe, healthy communities where everyone can afford a quality home. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, we had a housing stability crisis in Philadelphia. More than half of our renters qualified as cost-burdened, and there were over 19,000 evictions a year. Last May, Philadelphia was one of the first big cities in the country to use the new federal recovery funds to create a COVID-19 emergency rental assistance program. We quickly built an application system and recruited volunteers to help run it. We were under intense pressure to get the money out and were severely understaffed. I often worked late into the night and got up early reviewing applications and answering an endless stream of calls and emails from desperate tenants and landlords. I clearly remember a call from one tenant. She was a mother with 3 young kids who were about to be put out on the street with their possessions in trash bags unless we could help. We did get her assistance, and she was very grateful. The scale of the problem sometimes seemed insurmountable, but each time I heard from someone whose family was able to stay in their home thanks to our program, it was all worth it. A year later, we had a much more sophisticated program with dozens of full-time staff and a more powerful IT system. Today, Philadelphia's rent assistance programs have distributed over $200 million to landlords and tenants. I'm proud of the fact that Philadelphia's rental assistance and eviction diversion programs have been recognized as national models. These programs have kept tens of thousands of families in their homes and helped mom and pop landlords stay in business, providing so much of our city's affordable housing. This success was only possible thanks to our amazing, dedicated, talented, and compassionate team at PHDC in the city. And it was also only possible thanks to our incredible partners. Philadelphia's approach relied on an array of committed community-based partners, like Urban Affairs Coalition. Thanks to UAC, we were able to quickly get those federal funds out the door and help those who needed it most. Moving forward, it's important that we keep these programs going, invest in the infrastructure that we built, and continue to confront housing instability for the social, economic, and moral crisis that it is. I recently left the public sector and joined Guidehouse, where I'm helping clients around the country to develop solutions for building equitable, resilient communities and affordable housing. But I also remain committed to my city and my neighborhood. If we want Philadelphia to succeed, then we need to invest in all of our people and all of our neighborhoods. I'm truly honored to accept the 2021 Community Leadership Award. I look forward to our Community Leadership Award signature event in spring 2022. Thank you, and congratulations to Urban Affairs Coalition on your 52 years of service to our Philadelphia community.
At PICO, we are proud to have stood with UAC since its inception. We have been here for these past 52 years and remain committed to doing all we can. On behalf of PICO and our Chief Executive Officer, Mike Innocenzo, and to all the dreamers and doers who make up the UAC family, congratulations, UAC, on 52 years of service.
Congratulations again to Dr. Stanford and Greg. Created in honor of former Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell, the Doer Award is presented to a leader who represents the spirit of the coalition and personifies the idea that UAC is a home for dreamers and doers. We're excited to share a conversation with this year's recipient, Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr., a New York Times best-selling author and chair of Princeton University's Department of African American Studies. The conversation was moderated by Philadelphia's own Suleiman Rahman, founder and CEO of Diverse Force, a strategic human capital solutions firm that specializes in cultivating diverse leadership pipelines and inclusive ecosystems across all sectors. Let's check out this compelling conversation as the two discuss the iconic writer James Baldwin, a subject with whom Dr. Glaude, author of Begin Again, James Baldwin's America, and its urgent lesson for our own, is quite familiar.
If you were to channel James Baldwin, how would he see today's progress, and what would he see as progress, and is it similar to Dr. King's dream?
You know, Baldwin said in his last interview with Quincy Troop in 1987, he said he felt like a broken motor, saying the same thing over and over and over again. He witnessed the promise of the civil rights movement, and he saw the betrayal of the country of those ideals. He saw those young people. Many of us think of Black Power as somehow wholly separate from the civil rights movement. But he saw that Stokely Carmichael was dedicated to nonviolent discipline. Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, who became Kwame Ture, said he never broke nonviolent discipline except for once, except when the police attacked Dr. King in the March Against Fear. All of these folk, all of these young people who suddenly became, quote unquote, angry, these were, most of them, veterans of the civil rights movement. They had seen raw terror, experience, and Baldwin wanted to give an account that these were America's babies. He witnessed in real time the country double down on its ugliness. Real quick history lesson. I write this in the book. At every moment in our country's history, when we are at the cusp of fundamental transformation, we double down on this idea that white people ought to be valued more than others. You think about radical Reconstruction. Radical Reconstruction, the historians call it the second founding. It is that period where we get a modern conception of citizenship. The modern U.S. nation state comes into being. We get the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, right? In that moment, what did we get in response to radical Reconstruction? What did we get in response when moderates tried to work with Andrew Johnson? We got the riots, the massacre in Memphis in 1866, the massacres of Black and brown Union soldiers in New Orleans. What did we get in response to radical Reconstruction? We got Jim Crow in the states of Mississippi and Tennessee, the first states to pass Jim Crow laws. I'm being real quick, so no, I'm not. That's a preacherly technique. What do I mean? Frederick Douglass lived long enough to see Abraham Lincoln sign the Emancipation Proclamation, and long enough to see the states of Mississippi and Tennessee pass the first Jim Crow laws. He called them the apostles of forgetfulness. In response to radical Reconstruction, we get legal apartheid in the South. In response to radical Reconstruction, we get convict leasing, what historians call another form of slavery. In response to radical Reconstruction, we get the ideology of Anglo-Saxonism. which says that the problem is not just simply in the South, it's the ideology that guides America's imperial ambitions in the Philippines, in Cuba. At the very moment in which millions of people of color are being annexed into American life, we are consolidating the racial regime of Jim Crow in the South. America's export is not just simply baseball. That's just one historical moment. In the mid-20th century, Dr. King's sacrifice, we get the Black freedom struggle. What do we get in response? We get calls for law and order, which laid the foundation for the carceral state. We get the tax revolt in California, which shredding the social safety net that was put in place by the New Deal, which we're trying to deal with now with the Human Infrastructure Bill. Like I said to Joe Scarborough, well, we're spending billions and billions of dollars to respond to COVID. Well, if we had a social safety net like other countries, we wouldn't have had to spend as much money. What else did we get in response, right? We got the election of Nixon twice. What was the response to Dr. King, bottom half of Dr. King's head being blown off? It was a rightward backlash. And then by 1980, Ronald Reagan is elected to undo it all. And this is just a historical point. For members of the Black freedom struggle, particularly Black Power, Reagan was as notorious as George Wallace as the governor of California, right? Every turn, Obama gets elected in 2008, gut the Voting Rights Act, Tea Party, vitriol, election of Donald Trump. George Floyd is murdered, lynched right in front of us. Racial reckoning, honest conversation. What do we get in response? We double down on our ugliness. So what Jimmy would say, no, I don't want to say that. I said I wouldn't say that. What I say, in light of Jimmy, is that all of this is a reflection of a people who refuse to grow up, who refuse to be honest with themselves, who are comfortable with the myth and the illusion, that there's something broken about who we are. Something is broken. And I'll say this really quickly, and I'm not lying this time. The aspiration for wholeness will get you in trouble. The acknowledgement of brokenness and the possibility of beauty found in it may very well save you. And the great example I would use is Katsugi. Have you ever seen Katsugi pottery? The broken, the cracked Japanese pottery that then is filled with gold, where the cracked one filled with gold is actually worth more than the original version. Wholeness will get you in trouble. We need to recognize that we're broken and then find the beauty in the brokenness as we try to imagine America anew.
We could talk for a very long time, and you talked about how history is kind of repeating itself over and over again, and we're seeing it again today. We have some of Philadelphia's leaders, in this room, and UAC has convened leaders all the time. If Philadelphia decided to break that pattern, to reinvent ourselves, what would that look like? What would you suggest to these leaders in the room moving forward?
First of all, I don't want to pretend like I have all the answers. I'm out here struggling just like everybody else. And this kind of dovetails with the part of the question this previous question I didn't answer. At the heart of our quest for racial justice is a malformed conception. What do I mean by that? We tend to think the problem rests with the loud racist, the people who are shouting the N-word, saying Jews will not replace us, and those sorts of things. That's too easy. That's All My Children. That's Erica Kane kind of stuff. Did I just date myself? It was too hot to go out and play in the summers, and so I had to sit in the house, and my mama wouldn't change it off of ABC soap operas, right? So we tend to focus on the kind of melodramatic, where we want to clearly identify enemies. so that we can say those are the problem, they are the problem, we're not. When really what's at the heart of the problem is that we tend to think of racial justice as a philanthropic enterprise. Racial justice as a charitable gesture. When you think of racial justice as a philanthropic enterprise, it means that you believe that you possess it and then you can give it to me. Whoever gave you the possession of equality to give to me? And as long as we think about racial justice, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, possession as a charitable gesture, then I'm not seen as a constitutive part of who we are as a country, as a company. You're doing people favors. As a university, as a college, you're doing folk favors. You should be thankful you're here, as opposed to seeing us as constitutive members. It's like I was talking to someone, I think it was with the Guggenheim, and they were like, how do we know when we've achieved da 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 da? And I said, that's an odd question, right? Right. If we think about the mission of our companies, the vision that guides that mission, there's no end point, right? There's always an ongoing assessment of our pursuit of what brought us into existence in the mission in which we're engaged in. So DEI can't be seen as a value over there that we can turn our attention to and then claim, like the end of a curatorial exhibit, that we were successful. No, it has to be a part of the 360. Every time we assess what we're doing, it has to be a part. Okay, I'm going to hire this particular executive. I'm going to include in his compensation package or her compensation package whether or not she hits the diversity numbers, because it's consistent, it's constitutive of who we take ourselves to be. But as long as we think that we're doing folk favors, invite me to the table. It's my table too. Why are you inviting me to something that's mine too? Let's change the framework, how we think. The precondition for my entree into these spaces can no longer be that I mute the particularity of who I am. The condition for my being in these spaces is that somehow I have to make you comfortable. No. I can no longer quiet myself. It takes two to dance. We have to stop being complicit with the world as it is. You have worked your behinds off to acquire the capital requisite for you to walk, right, in a different way. I tell my son all the time, and I'll shut up, I'm walking closer to you. The world conspires to make you small, baby. The question is whether or not you're going to be complicit. And if the world conspires to make you small and you refuse, then what are you going to do? I want you to be like John Coltrane and take giant steps, right? So we have to change how we move in this city, in this country. And that doesn't mean you have to move as the angry black man or black woman. Doesn't have to move as you're virtue signaling. Doesn't have to mean that you have to move to show that you are always, but no, you have to move with the kind of dignity and standing that you deserve and that you demand. The condition for our entree into these places can no longer be that you quiet yourself, because then you become complicit. All right, love y'all much. Take care.
Thanks so much to Suleiman Rahman and to the wonderful Dr. Glaude for that insightful and powerful discussion and conversation. I know that many of us may be feeling uncomfortable right now. These conversations are hard, but we can't ignore it. We have to tackle it. One of the things that we've always been trying to do at the Coalition is to remind people how we got started. You heard me talk about the fact that the Coalition started when Dr. King was assassinated. We know that this movement today, in part, was really fueled by the murder of George Floyd. These points in time make us stop. They make us think. They make us feel. But they should also make us act. We are going to solve racism. I am convinced of that because we are not giving in and we're not giving up. UAC has been here for 52 years, on the front line to drive change. We haven't been perfect, no one has, but we are not giving up. If it takes 52 more years or 52 years after that, we're going to be here when it's the top headline, but we're going to be here when it's not, when people are thinking about other things. Because we know that if we believe in our future, the future for our children, our grandchildren, and their children, we must remain committed to ending racism. So thank you again, Dr. Glaude. Thank you everyone for being here and for being a part of this critical conversation and being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
At Wells Fargo, we're proud to serve with UAC, building pathways to prosperity for new and existing home buyers through financial education, home buying assistance, and foreclosure prevention. On behalf of Wells Fargo and to all of the dreamers and doers who make up the UAC family, congratulations UAC on 52 years of service.
For 38 years, the Coalition has also made it a priority to ensure that families in need are supported during the holiday season. 18 years ago, my husband Jeff Brown and I decided to join the Coalition during the season of giving and partner on what is now the largest Thanksgiving basket distribution in the region. Each Saturday before Thanksgiving every year, the Browns ShopRite family joins the UAC family to host a community volunteer event to pack 2,000 Thanksgiving baskets, a turkey and all the fixings designed to feed a family of 6. The following Monday, right before Thanksgiving, our families gather to distribute the Thanksgiving baskets to more than 80 participating community organizations who share the baskets with the families they serve in our communities. Together, we feed over 12,000 individuals across the city. On behalf of all of the ShopRite and the Fresh Grocer supermarkets operated by the Brown family, our vendors, and the Urban Affairs Coalition, we would like to thank the generous donors who have joined us to make it possible to feed these families across the region through our Thanksgiving Basket program. Our mission at Brown's is to bring joy to the lives of the people we serve, especially during the holiday season when the community needs our help more than ever. On behalf of the whole Brown family, congratulations, UAC. Here's to celebrating 52 years of service and 52 years more.
At the Philadelphia AFL-CIO, we're proud to serve with UAC by working to provide summer job opportunities throughout the city of Philadelphia. On behalf of the Labor Council and to all of the dreamers and doers who make up the UAC family, congratulations, UAC, on your 52nd year of service.
I'm Delilah Wilson-Scott, Executive Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer of Comcast Corporation. On behalf of Comcast NBC Universal, I want to extend our deepest congratulations to the Urban Affairs Coalition on celebrating 52 years of service. We are a proud supporter of the UAC's Home for Nonprofits, a network of more than 80 partner organizations, large and small, who work tirelessly to drive change from the ground up in every neighborhood in this city, providing services ranging from positive youth development to adult education, workforce opportunities to health and wellness, financial empowerment, home ownership, and racial and gender equity initiatives. Every day, UAC and Comcast NBC Universal take pride in the work we do alongside community partners to create opportunities, advocate for the disenfranchised, and support the health and well-being of children, youth, and adults throughout our region. For 52 years, UAC and its partners have built bridges of understanding across communities that supported shared values and ultimately one another. Because of UAC, we can do what no one individual or organization can do alone. That's the power of coalition.
At Lindy Communities, we are proud to serve with UAC. With Charmaine and with her devotion to the Summer Youth Program and her commitment to uplift those in poverty and those with the cards stacked against them. On behalf of Lindy Communities and to all our dreamers and doers who make up the UA family, congratulations UAC on 52 years of service.
Our final award presentation today is the Founders Award. Established to mark UAC's 50th anniversary, the award recognizes stalwart community partners for their distinguished service to the coalition and its communities, rooted in the principles of its founders. To present this award, please welcome Grant Rawdon, founder and CEO of Westcott Financial. Grant served as chair of the board at UAC from 2009 to 2018 and continues as chair emeritus and vice chair today.
As CEO of Westcott Financial, I am proud to represent all of my colleagues in congratulating the Urban Affairs Coalition. Celebrating 52 years of impactful service is a remarkable achievement for any organization. In the 16 years that I've served on the UAC Board of Directors as Chair Emeritus and now Vice Chair, I am still in awe of the power of coalition that our UAC founding board members established in 1969. For 52 years. Think of it, 52 years. UAC has been the exemplar organization for change, uniting business, government, neighborhoods, and individual initiatives to improve the quality of life for generations of people in our region. Westcott Financial, a certified B Corp and winner of the 2021 Best Place to Work, is dedicated to the same ideals of inclusion and impactful community service. Our long partnership of support of UAC has been meaningful to the heart and soul of our company. Which brings me to our Founders Award. Recipients of the Founders Award exemplify the principles of UAC's founders. They are activators rather than administrators. They're primarily catalytic and supportive. They provide a forum where diverse members of the community can discuss, define, and research both problems and solutions. They support and assist those groups in efforts which legitimately represent major community interests. And they draw the community, in all its aspects, together. This year I have the distinct honor to introduce, thank, and congratulate our Founders Award recipient, PNC BANK.
On behalf of all my colleagues at PNC, I'm honored to accept the 2021 Urban Affairs Coalition Founders Award. PNC has enjoyed a relationship with the Urban Affairs Coalition that spans more than a quarter of a century, and it's been a true privilege to work alongside them and many of the community-facing nonprofits they serve. The last 18 months have presented greater and more complex challenges than ever before. Yet the hardships of 2020 and now 2021 have also placed a spotlight on the many nonprofits, community organizations, volunteers, and others who have responded to these challenges head-on, developing programs that address the full breadth of our community's needs.
PNC's commitment to creating greater opportunities for economic and social mobility builds upon decades of community development banking work and incorporates a broad range of programs, including financial education, support for small business, affordable housing, community revitalization efforts, and more. Our commitment to moving all forward financially is nothing new. And yet, PNC's recently expanded $88 billion community benefits plan marks a renewed focus on providing greater opportunities for historically marginalized individuals from Black, Indigenous, Latin American, and other communities of color. Across our region and community, in our retail banks, and with the rollout of new products and services, PNC has never been more committed to creating greater opportunities for all community members.
Thank you, Urban Affairs Coalition, for this tremendous recognition. My PNC colleagues and I are deeply honored to receive this 2021 Founders Award, and we look forward to coming together with each of you at the Founders Community Reception, scheduled for June 2022.
Thanks again to Grant Rawdon, and congratulations to PNC Bank. Before we move on, we've been promising an exciting announcement, and I'd like to bring back Joe Meterchick of PNC, our partner in this new endeavor, to share this news with you.
Our relationship now includes a $1.5 million commitment to create a new Urban Affairs Coalition Community Connection Center located in the heart of Philadelphia's North Broad Street commercial corridor in a former PNC Bank branch at Broad and Loudon. Once completed, the new PNC North Broad Community Connection Center will serve as a high-impact community hub for all Philadelphians, offering meeting and programming space for the Urban Affairs Coalition's existing youth services, adult education, workforce development, and small business programs. New co-working facilities for many of the Urban Affairs nonprofit partners, and a range of community meeting and conference spaces so that, as soon as the circumstances allow, we can all come together in pursuit of creating educational and financial opportunities for all Philadelphians.
We are thrilled to be working with PNC to create the Urban Affairs Coalition Community Center, and we look forward to seeing you all at Broad and Loudon someday very soon. Congratulations to all of this year's amazing honorees, Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr., Dr. Ala Stanford, and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium, Greg Heller, and PNC Bank. You all exemplify the values and vision of UAC.
This event today is just one in a series of virtual, in-person, and hybrid events that will be taking place over the next 7 months. Stay tuned for more details about our community conversation with Dr. Stanford and the Black Doctors Consortium in March 2022, a citywide volunteer week featuring Greg Heller and all of our UAC partners in spring 2022, and a Founders Award reception unveiling our new community center with PNC Bank in June 2022. Thank you to all the UAC staff and UAC partners who drive change on the ground each and every day. Today would not have been possible, however, without the support of our sponsors, some of whom have been with us for all 52 years. You are the people who invest in the coalition, and we want to thank you for everything you do. Thank you once again to everyone who joined us today to celebrate 52 amazing years of service. And remember, we are just getting started. See you in 2022.